the student who solved his own murder. The night was silent except for the faint hum of the radiator in the corner of room 214, Stanford Hall. By morning it would become a crime scene. When campus security pushed open the door at 7:42 a.m., they found 19-year-old Matthew Carter slumped over his desk, his blood soaking into a half-finished notebook. His laptop screen glowed faintly with an open Word document. At first glance, it looked like another college tragedy, a stressed-out student who had collapsed under the weight of exams. But the gash across his throat made it clear, this was murder. Detectives from the city's homicide division were called within the hour. Detective Sarah Halloway, a 15-year veteran known for her sharp instincts, was first on the scene. The room reeked of iron and stale coffee. Books were scattered across the desk, but nothing seemed stolen. His wallet was still on the dresser, his phone plugged into the charger. Whoever had killed Matthew hadn't come for money. On the desk lay a thick leather-bound journal, its pages soaked with blood at the edges. Halloway gently lifted it with gloved hands. Inside, the first page was dated nearly a year ago. Matthew had filled it obsessively, every page crammed with neat handwriting. What struck her most were the final words scrawled in uneven ink the night before he died. If you're reading this, it means he found me. And you'll know who he is by what I've written. The entire dorm building buzzed with panic. Students whispered in the hallways, some crying, others staring blankly as officers questioned them. Matthew was quiet, bookish, a scholarship student studying criminology. To many, the irony was unbearable. A boy fascinated with solving crimes had become the center of one. Detective Halloway sat down with Matthew's roommate, Jason Lee, a tall, wiry sophomore who trembled as he spoke. He claimed he had spent the night at his girlfriend's off-campus apartment. He was nervous lately, Jason said. Kept saying someone was following him. I thought he was just stressed. You know how Matt was, always in his head. When pressed, Jason admitted Matthew had shown him the journal before. He said if anything happened to him, everything we'd need to know was inside. Like he expected this. Jason's eyes darted to the floor as if afraid he'd said too much. Later, back at the precinct, Halloway flipped through the journal for hours. It wasn't random notes, it was an investigation. Matthew had been tracking someone. Each entry listed names, dates, places. He'd followed a trail of thefts on campus. Stolen laptops, exam papers, even prescription drugs. And again, one name surfaced. Ryan Mercer, a senior known for his charm and for always skating just beneath trouble. The journal detailed Matthew's suspicions with meticulous care. Where Ryan had been seen, who he had argued with, times when thefts coincided with Ryan's shifts at the campus coffee shop. And at the bottom of the last complete page, written in shaky handwriting, were 5 words that chilled Halloway. Ryan knows I know now. By the second day, Ryan Mercer was brought in for questioning. He arrived with a lawyer, smiling confidently, insisting he had been at a fraternity party all night with dozens of witnesses. His alibi checked out, at least on the surface. Still, the journal painted him as the only possible suspect. But then came something no one expected. A text was recovered from Matthew's phone, sent at 11:48 p.m. the night before his death. It was a draft message he never managed to send. 4 words only. Check the basement tonight. Detective Halloway ordered a search of Stanford Hall's basement. At first, it looked like nothing more than storage. Old chairs, broken desks, dusty filing cabinets. But behind a loose panel near the boiler room, officers uncovered a small hidden space. Inside were laptops, textbooks, and even campus ID cards, dozens of stolen items carefully stacked. The evidence was damning, but it raised an even more chilling question. If Matthew had uncovered this, had someone killed him to keep it hidden? And then, tucked beneath one of the laptops, they found another journal, not Matthew's but Ryan Mercer's. When Detective Halloway opened it, she froze. The first page began with Matthew's name. And that was when everything shifted. The discovery of Ryan Mercer's journal was like a blade through the case, sharp, cutting, and impossible to ignore. Detective Halloway sat at her desk long after midnight, reading the neat lines of ink that grew darker and more erratic with each page. At first, Ryan wrote like a narcissist, boasting about the things he'd stolen, mocking professors who trusted him, laughing at how easily he could manipulate his friends. But soon the tone changed. The entries shifted from arrogance to obsession. Matthew's name appeared again and again. Ryan described him as the only one who notices, the shadow always watching, the boy who won't stop. There were sketches of Matthew's face, pages of paranoid rambling about how Matthew was building a case against him. And then the final entry. Tonight I end this game. He thinks he's the detective. But I'm the judge, jury, and executioner. It was damning evidence, yet something about it gnawed at Holloway. Why would Ryan keep such an incriminating record, hidden in the very basement where he stashed his stolen goods? Was it arrogance? Or was it something more deliberate, a trail left for them to follow? Ryan was brought back in. This time, confronted with the journal, his confidence cracked. His hands trembled, his jaw tightened. But he refused to admit anything. His lawyer argued the journal was fabricated, a forgery meant to frame him. Without direct forensic ties, no fingerprints on the weapon, no blood on his clothes, the case was strong but not airtight. Then, another twist. Forensics confirmed that not all of the handwriting in Ryan's journal matched his own. Some entries had subtle differences, the curve of letters, the pressure of the pen. Almost as if someone had been mimicking his style. The revelation hit Holloway like ice water. Was it possible Matthew himself had written those pages? Had he planted Ryan's guilt so meticulously that he'd gone as far as to forge evidence against him? The deeper they dug, the stranger it became. Matthew's laptop contained drafts of essays, but also files labeled case notes. Inside were word-for-word copies of Ryan's alleged journal entries. Some matched exactly, down to the page. It dawned on Holloway that Matthew hadn't just been documenting Ryan's crimes. He had been scripting the entire narrative, building a trap so convincing that even seasoned detectives almost fell for it. But why? Why would a bright, promising student orchestrate something this elaborate? The answer came with a quiet knock on Holloway's office door. Jason Lee, Matthew's roommate, asked to speak privately. His face was pale, his voice hoarse. "There's something I didn't tell you," he confessed. Jason revealed that Matthew wasn't just paranoid about Ryan. He was obsessed. He used to talk about how the system let guys like Ryan slip through, Jason said. He wanted to prove he could catch him, even if nobody else could. He said, "If I can't stop him alive, I'll stop him dead." I thought it was just talk. That single sentence reframed the entire case. Matthew hadn't simply been a victim. He had been the architect of his own endgame. Detectives pieced together the last night. Matthew had lured Ryan to the basement, leaving behind the draft text, "Check the basement tonight." He had planted Ryan's journal, forged enough entries to blur the line between truth and fiction. He wanted Ryan cornered, guilty in the eyes of everyone. But something had gone wrong. Perhaps Ryan discovered the deception. Perhaps he confronted Matthew. And in the chaos, Matthew ended up dead. Still, the journal he left behind, his own journal, was clear. It mapped Ryan's patterns, tied him to thefts, to threats, to violence. Even if Matthew hadn't planned to die, he had ensured that Ryan would. In court, the defense fought savagely. They painted Matthew as a delusional boy who had tried to ruin Ryan's life, a student who blurred reality and fantasy. But the evidence was undeniable. Ryan's fingerprints on stolen property, his DNA in the hidden basement space, eyewitnesses who remembered his erratic behavior. The verdict came after only 3 hours of deliberation. Guilty. Life without parole. When the sentence was read, Ryan only laughed. A bitter, hollow sound that echoed in the courtroom. "You think he beat me?" he sneered. "You're wrong. He wanted to play detective. He got himself killed. And now you all worship him for it." Detective Holloway didn't celebrate. Instead, she found herself standing once more in room 214, staring at the empty desk where Matthew had spent his final hours. The journal lay sealed in an evidence bag, its pages immortalizing the boy who had outsmarted a killer, even if it cost him everything. She whispered under her breath, a mix of respect and sorrow, "You solved your own murder, Matthew. But at what price?" And as she closed the door behind her, she couldn't shake the lingering thought that haunted everyone who touched the case. Had Matthew truly been the victim? Or had he written himself into the role of martyr, just to win the game he created?